I'm just going to use the restroom before we leave, I said, grabbing my purse with my phone and documents inside. I stepped off the train, feeling the cool air of the platform on my face. I stood there watching as the train doors closed, as the whistle blew, and as it slowly began to pull away from the station. My phone buzzed in my purse, snapping me out of my thoughts. Scott's name flashed on the screen. I took a deep breath and answered. "Nancy, where are you?" Scott's panicked voice came through. "We're not on the same path anymore, Scott," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm divorcing you." I hung up before he could respond. My hand shook as I opened my banking app and blocked Scott's access to our joint account. Barely a minute passed before my phone rang again. This time, it was Janet. I held the phone away from my ear as she shouted insults and threats, demanding that I pay for their trip and compensate them for emotional distress. When she finally paused for breath, I spoke calmly. "Janet, I'm not afraid of your threat. If you post any slander, I won't hesitate to take legal action." I blocked her number, then Scott's, and finally Larry's, just to be sure. Taking a deep breath, I called a cab and went home. The weekend passed in a blur of emotions and practical tasks. I packed Scott's belongings, contacted a lawyer, and drafted the divorce papers. By Friday morning, I felt drained but determined. The sound of a key turning in the lock made me tense. Scott walked in looking disheveled and desperate. "Nancy, please," he said, walking toward me with open arms. I stepped back, pointing to the suitcases by the door. "Your things are packed. It's time for you to go." His expression twisted. "You're not saying that." With a frantic tone, Scott declared, "I've learned my lesson." On the vacation, my mom and I got into a heated argument. I told them that I would no longer be paying for them. Even today, I'm not speaking with them. Please give me another opportunity. I gave him the divorce papers while shaking my head. "Scott, it's too late. This has more to do with respect, trust, and the life I want to lead than it does with your parents. Our desires may differ, and that's acceptable, but I'm at my limit now." Scott nodded after a drawn-out silence, his shoulders lowering in surrender. With a gentle click, he closed the door behind him as he scooped up his luggage and left. The weeks that followed were difficult, but they were also liberating. Thanks to my meticulous documentation and Scott's acceptance of the circumstances, the divorce procedure was completed without incident. I lost myself in my profession, turning to writing and cooking for solace. After everything calmed down, I discovered that I was alone once more, but not in the way I had dreaded. I once again found delight in the small things, like experimenting with new dishes, relaxing on quiet evenings with a good book, and interacting with my followers without feeling obligated to meet anyone's expectations. I had a glass of wine on my balcony one evening and enjoyed the view of the city. I couldn't resist grinning. Although my life hadn't gone as I had hoped, perhaps it had worked out perfectly. Isabella was myself again, a culinary critic, a writer, and most of all, a woman in charge of her own life. "Are you ready to leave yet?" I said as I cast a quick glance around the almost empty room. A sigh came out of my friend. With a hint of relaxation in their voice, they said, "Just waiting on the movers." To be honest, I won't miss you around, and it was a bit much the way you changed the locks, as if I was going to try to break in. The question of why such drastic measures were required had always intrigued me, but it now seemed almost unimportant. Kevin was a reserved man who was constantly worried about what other people thought when we first met. He was the perfect example of a henpecked spouse after being married. I had moved into my new place for a week when Kevin seemed desperate. "It's me. Open up," he asked. I pretended not to see him, reacting to his fear with an act of deceit. I'm Carol, a 34-year-old who works 4 days a week as a part-time employee. 3 years have passed since Kevin and I exchanged vows. Even if we are childless, I think we may still be happy together. When we first got married, we used to talk about our future goals till the wee hours of the morning. We were both cautious at first, inexperienced in love, but I felt that we genuinely enjoyed one another's presence. One night I said to myself, let's be that couple that grows old together. Yes, that's a good concept. A boy and a girl, maybe 3 children. He concurred, saying, that's exactly what I was thinking. Even for someone who wasn't very interested in dating or marriage, these light-hearted conversations were enjoyable. It was a surprise to meet Kevin. We first spoke at a gathering that I went to out of duty rather than excitement. We grew closer as a result of our mutual indifference and the fact that he appeared to be there on similar pretenses. I considered him extremely charming at the time since he was serious, a little reserved, and always kind to me. Then he made an unexpected proposal. Will you marry me, Carol? My goal is to see you smile. How come? We're not even dating yet. Is that correct? He firmly accepted his suggestion. His surprise inquiry didn't make me turn away. Rather, it got me thinking about the prospect of spending a lifetime with him. Yes, I accept if that's okay with you. His happiness was contagious, and I suddenly saw why life occasionally deals us these unanticipated, unfortunate turns. I really thought that marrying Kevin would result in a happy future when he proposed. We married within 2 months of our initial meeting, indicating that we jumped right into marriage. Our trip was a little awkward at times due to our lack of romantic experience, but that just made it more exciting. But after moving in together, approximately a month in, I started to see a clear disconnect between my expectations and our marriage's reality. Kevin once came up to me with a more serious than normal expression. He continued earnestly, Carol, there's something I need to discuss. When he suggested that I think about giving up my work to become a stay-at-home mom, I was shocked. He had never before voiced any displeasure with my work, so this request came as a surprise and signaled the start of an odd change in his conduct. Why would you ask that? I questioned, puzzled by his sudden change. When you work, it makes me feel unneeded, he confessed. Did someone suggest that to you? I asked, trying to understand his sudden insecurity. No, but at my company, all the other men's wives stay at home. It's just how things are there, he explained. I had been clear from the start of our marriage that I intended to keep working, especially since saving money was crucial for our plans. Kevin's new insistence baffled me. But we agreed I would continue working after we got married, didn't we? I reminded him. I know, but as my wife, I hoped you'd consider my feelings. He responded, his concern more about fitting social norms than our mutual happiness. Why not just pretend I've quit? There's no need for me actually to leave my job, I suggested, expressing my reluctance to give up my career. However, Kevin seemed increasingly worried about how others perceived him. If things don't change, I'll be ridiculed by my colleagues and bosses. I'm supposed to be the head of this household, aren't I? Please just do as I ask, he pressed, unwilling to listen to my reasoning. I can't make such a decision immediately. Let me think about it, I said, needing time to weigh my options. All right, but please decide soon, he urged, his tone urgent. I knew I couldn't let this issue drag on, fearing what might follow if I didn't act decisively. Seeking advice, I turned to my boss, Madison. She had worked as an administrative assistant since high school and had faced a similar situation with a controlling ex-husband, eventually leading to her divorce. Now she was a dedicated single mother and someone I greatly admired. That must have been tough, I mused, considering divorce as I reflected on her strength and resilience. Navigating the early days of our marriage, Kevin and I found ourselves at a complex juncture. It's tricky since we're newlyweds, I pondered, contemplating the implications of quitting my job. I haven't fully thought this through, but leaving my position will make it difficult to find a replacement. I shared my concerns with Madison, my boss, who had become a mentor to me. I don't plan to quit immediately, I explained. I'm looking for a way to keep working if possible. Perhaps we could maintain my current part-time schedule for the time being. Switching to full-time might draw too much attention. That's a wise approach, Madison agreed, supportive of my decision to negotiate with Kevin. If he still objects, we could propose reducing my hours officially to part-time. That sounds like a sensible plan. Remember, you can always count on me for advice. I'm here to support you. Madison reassured me, offering a lifeline in the turbulent sea of my marital issues. Thank you, I appreciate your support, I replied, grateful for her guidance. Our conversation deepened, and I discovered that Madison's ex-husband had also changed drastically after their marriage, a situation eerily similar to mine. This revelation was eye-opening. I hadn't considered that some men might transform so completely after marriage, becoming almost unrecognizable from the person they once were. Viewing my circumstances through this lens, I wondered if I had been misled. Despite numerous discussions, Kevin and I were at an impasse. Isn't it a woman's role after marriage to support her husband and manage the household? He argued, clinging to outdated norms. What era are you living in? Nowadays, it's common for both spouses to work, I countered, shocked by his archaic views. Maybe for other couples, but we're different. You see that, don't you? He tried to persuade me. I understand where you're coming from, but I can't agree with it. I stood my ground, asking him to consider my perspective. Kevin persisted daily, pressuring me to quit my job. Despite his efforts, they fell short. I consulted with Madison and decided to resign officially. However, in reality, I continued working part-time 4 days a week. Thankfully, Madison was sympathetic to my situation and agreed to reduce my hours. I've resigned from my job at the company, just as you wanted, I told Kevin. Really? Thank you. Now I can feel more secure about my position at work, he responded, relieved yet oblivious to the truth. By then, it was clear Kevin was primarily concerned with how others perceived him. His abrupt transformation left me bewildered. I chose to deceive him, continuing to work secretly in hopes of preserving our relationship and my independence. But I soon realized that my hopes for a fresh start were misplaced. Despite our new beginning, Kevin continued to exert his dominance and vent his frustrations on me. One day, he sprung a sudden request on me. A junior colleague is coming over today. I need you to host, he said abruptly. I had no idea, I responded, caught off guard. Sorry, it was a last-minute decision. Just keep it simple, please, he instructed. Determined to fulfill the request, I prepared drinks and snacks for the guests. However, when Kevin arrived, he was displeased. Didn't I ask you to prepare for today? He chided. You mentioned just keeping it basic, and you took that literally. This reflects poorly on me. I need you to fulfill your role as a wife properly. What exactly does that mean? I did my best. Is there an issue with what I prepared? I asked, genuinely confused by his dissatisfaction. No, not really, he muttered, his expression unreadable, a stark contrast to the person I once knew. From then on, Kevin began inviting guests over almost every week. While he reveled in the social gatherings, he expected me to be on standby, prepared for anything. It seemed he was trying to impress everyone with his capabilities as a husband. Kevin, having guests over every week seems excessive, I ventured one day. No, it's fine. Everyone enjoys it, and you should support my decisions. It's your duty as my wife. But maintaining such a lifestyle was also expensive. How exactly am I supposed to manage it? I asked. Oh, stop complaining. He would dismiss any question I had as nagging and avoided giving a direct answer. Every morning, I woke up early to prepare meals, make lunch sandwiches, and see Kevin off, all while keeping his suit ready for the day. On days I worked part-time, from 9 o'clock a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m., there was barely any time to rest. Despite the business, I cherished my job. Working often felt like a welcome respite. Carol, you seem tired lately. Are you okay? My coworker Deborah asked one day, noticing my fatigue. Yeah, a bit actually, I admitted. Let me know if there's anything I can do. I'm here to help in any way I can. Thank you, Deborah. You've been such a reliable support, unlike Kevin. Deborah understood the deterioration in how I was being treated. She was aware of my secret part-time job and had kept it hidden from Kevin. I appreciate everything, Deborah. I expressed my gratitude. Bill mentioned it, but I never imagined Kevin would behave like this, she confessed. Neither did I. I've tried talking to him, but he won't listen, and we hardly have a meaningful conversation anymore. I'm sorry. If only I were stronger. I sighed, feeling overwhelmed. Don't be too hard on yourself. You're managing work and household tasks admirably. I appreciate all your help. I'm glad to hear that, I replied, grateful for her kindness. Living with Deborah's support had been nothing but a positive experience for me, a stark contrast to the strain at home. However, Kevin seemed uncomfortable with how close Deborah and I had become. This discomfort led him to make a shocking and sudden decision. Where's Deborah? Mom's gone, I questioned, puzzled by her absence. What do you mean, gone? I asked, my confusion growing. Mom's getting older, and I thought it would be best for her to be in a facility, he replied nonchalantly. You actually placed her in a home? My voice cracked, barely hiding my disbelief. Yeah, just finished settling her into the new place. Now I have the house to myself, he stated as if he had just completed a routine chore. I was at my parents' home when this happened, and the fact that he unilaterally decided to place his mother in a facility shocked me. She was older, yes, but not to the extent that she required full-time care. It became clear to me that he had sent Deborah away to have the house to himself. When I visited Deborah at the facility, she looked surprised yet resigned. I'm sorry it had to come to this, I apologized. No, it's not your fault, Deborah reassured me. I never expected him to go to such lengths. I'm afraid of what he might do if I resist. I'll miss you, but I'll manage. If you need anything, you're always welcome here, she added, trying to offer some comfort. Thank you, I replied, feeling the weight of the situation. Afterward, we moved from our previous home into my in-laws' house. Despite managing the household diligently, Kevin never acknowledged my efforts or showed any gratitude. The idea of having children, once a topic of eager discussion, now seemed completely out of reach. Kevin often disregarded me, preferring to spend his time away from home. Additionally, he began imposing arbitrary rules. No matter how late he returned, I was required to stay awake until his arrival. If I happened to wake up later than him in the morning, he would become upset. What time will you be home today? I asked one evening. I'm not sure. Just stay up until I get back, okay? He instructed. One day, after a similar exchange, when Kevin returned home, I noticed something unusual. As I took his suit to hang it up, the air was fragrant, a sweet feminine scent that was unfamiliar to me, as I didn't wear perfume. It was unmistakable evidence of an affair. Whenever he came home late, I would catch whiffs of the same perfume. That day, he unusually suggested I go to bed before him, raising my suspicions even further. Quietly, I went to the living room and overheard their conversation. "Oh, she's clueless." "When are you going to leave her?" a woman's voice asked. "I'll kick her out soon enough," Kevin's voice responded. Clearly, their voices carried easily, especially the woman's, which was quite loud. From their discussion, it was evident that their relationship had been ongoing for some time. While the incident with the perfume didn't shock me, it left me feeling utterly disgusted. Kevin was still technically my husband, and despite my hopes for a turnaround, his treatment of me remained harsh and unchanging. As we approached the 3-year mark of our marriage, he sprung another surprise. "I have a business trip the day after tomorrow. I need you to get everything ready," he announced abruptly. "That's very short notice," I replied, the timing and suddenness raising my suspicions. "I'll be away for about 4 days. Please make sure my clothes are prepared." I couldn't help but suspect his claim of a business trip was a cover for time spent with his mistress. I remembered a conversation with a colleague's wife at a company gathering who had warned me, "Be cautious if he suddenly mentions a business trip. Our company doesn't even have those." Her words echoed in my mind as I pieced things together. My suspicions had been confirmed earlier when I found a chat on his mobile phone, accidentally left in the living room, detailing how he had taken paid leave for this so-called trip. This discovery marked a turning point for me and signaled the beginning of the end of our marriage. Armed with proof of his affair, I prepared to confront him with divorce papers upon his return. However, it was Kevin who made the first move. "Are you ready to leave? The movers will be here soon," he said coldly as soon as he returned home. "I need you to be gone before I get back," he demanded. "Why are you saying this all of a sudden?" I countered, shocked by his blunt directive. "You can't spring this on me and expect me to leave immediately." "Then I'll wait a bit, but start preparing to leave," he replied, dismissing my objections. "Goodbye." I never imagined that my once timid, overly concerned husband would transform into such a domineering partner, but this was the final straw. The future I once envisioned with him now felt like a distant memory. Living with such a man, I couldn't envision a bright future ahead. What comes next? I wondered aloud. This could get interesting. Has the mover arrived yet? "No need to rush. They should be here soon," came the reply. "Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, I'm changing the locks on the house," he added almost casually. "All right, got it," I responded, my heart sinking. "The thought of not having to see your face again is a relief," were his parting words. After nearly 3 years of marriage, convinced our relationship was irreversibly over, I swiftly left the premises. Soon after, I instructed my lawyer to file for divorce. Despite our circumstances, my husband boldly posted pictures with his mistress on social media, an act of brazen audacity. How could he be so reckless, not realizing he was providing even more evidence of his affair? Even our mutual friends noticed his strange behavior, marking the public unraveling of what we once shared. After leaving my in-laws' home, I transitioned back to full-time work and moved into a high-rise apartment in the suburbs, a place I had long dreamed of living. The apartment was spacious, ideal for one, and felt wonderfully liberating without Kevin's presence. About a month after settling in, I was jolted one morning by the doorbell. Peering through the monitor, I was stunned to see Kevin standing outside. "Hey, it's me, Kevin." "Open up, Carol," he called out, his voice presumptuous and demanding. His sudden appearance and the entitlement in his tone were beyond my comprehension. Deciding to feign ignorance, I thought it might be more amusing than outright rejecting him. Who are you?" I'm sorry, but I don't know you, I responded through the intercom. Don't tell me you've forgotten your husband's face. I'm not married. I think you've mistaken me for someone else. I continued watching as desperation seemed to wash over him, his face a shadow of the timid man I once knew. Please just listen. I've been deceived and I need Carol's help, he pleaded. I'm sorry, but I'm not obligated to assist you. If you persist, I'll have to call the police. Seriously, after all, I don't know you, I retorted, steadfast in my resolve to treat him as a stranger. Kevin must have thought I would always be there to solve his problems, but I was no longer the person who tolerated such dependency. Yet he remained stubborn, unwilling to relent. That's it. You made this mess, so it's up to you to fix it. You don't have to be so tough on me, he whimpered. Oh, and by the way, you can't stay at your parents' place anymore, he added abruptly. What do you mean? Do you know whose name the house is under? I questioned, surprised by his statement. No, but it used to belong to Deborah. Now it's in my name, I explained, revealing a significant change he was unaware of. Kevin had insisted I leave when I confided in Deborah, which visibly upset and disappointed her. I can't believe my son has turned out like this. I'm truly sorry, especially after all the help you've given us, Deborah had said during one of our conversations. Deborah, you're divorcing Kevin, aren't you? She had asked. Yes, it's for the best, I confirmed. In that case, I'll transfer the house to you, she offered, making a decision that took both me and presumably Kevin by surprise.